Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome to Betsperts Golf. Here for our first look at the 2026 Masters. Finally, it's here. It's arrived. Cannot wait. 90th playing, 90th edition. I cannot wait to break it down. Joining me, as always, is going to be my guy, Ron Kloss. I'm going to do some housekeeping here at the top and share a little bit about what we have going on this week so you can just jump in, take advantage of a few of our promos. Appreciate it. First of all, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, subscribe. Again, lots of great content that we have here, different shorts throughout the week. Tuesday is our betting preview. Today, we're going to kind of dig into our first look show. Just want to show you here. I'll bring Ron in here momentarily. If you are not a Betsperts Golf subscriber, which fix that, this is the best way to do it right now through our partners over at Novig. Let me put this up here on the screen for you guys and get rid of my face. See more of this. Great deal. If you just go over to betspertsgolf.com, you can click on this article. It's going to kind of walk you through it, but pretty simple. If you are a new Novig user, all you need to do is use promo code BSG or click the link here that we have. Kind of walks you through it. Pretty simple. $5 purchase on Novig. It's basically a sports book for you to deposit and play on. They're going to match it with $50. Then you're going to get a promo code emailed to you to get a free Betsperts Golf subscription. No additional cost. Full calendar year. Typically $250, $5 deposited at Novig is going to get that for you as long as you use promo code BSG. Follow the links here on the site. Very, very straightforward, very simple. Also, if you'd like to get in on the tiers or pick'em stuff, our friends over at Splash Sports have two Betsperts Golf contests for you this week. First by strokes and also by dollar winnings. $10 three max for both. They're both guaranteed payouts. Again, it's Monday morning here as we record, and one of these is almost half full. So I think you guys are going to help us fill these pretty quickly here. If you have any questions, let us know at Betsperts Golf on Twitter, or you can message us specifically as well. Part of the reason I'm turning it on solo is our fearless leader, Ron Kloss, stays up all hours of the night to get his Masters preview in your guys' hands. It is ready. It is up on the site and ready for you to go. Back to the floor. Oh, what's going on, buddy? How we doing?
Doing well. It's Masters week. Hey, sleep is for the week. You can sleep after this week, but no, seriously, best week of the year, favorite major. Really looking forward to digging in here. And yeah, there's a lot that matters this week. It's a different week compared to even other majors, just because of how sticky, past success here. And, yeah, the trends we'll get to maybe a little bit, but yeah, those, I know people have different opinions, but those have shown to have some importance this week. So.
Sorry, my internet jumped there for a minute. So you're double dipping today because you're trying to also get all your Masters work done. You got a national championship to sweat tonight too. So representing there with the shirt feels like an impending boat race here from Michigan. So we'll have a very happy Ron on Tuesday morning. He'll be writing all of his betting previews, DraftKings previews with ear-to-ear smiles, I'm sure, after Michigan takes care of UConn tonight. But yeah, I'm with you. It's, I don't know. I feel like as a society, we find ways to, anything that we prop up, we want to bring it back down. I feel like the Masters still kind of stands on a pedestal by itself. It's just something that is just widely agreed upon that everyone loves it. Everyone loves this place. It continues to grow and gravitas every year. It's obviously just the golf course, the aesthetics. It feels like the start of spring. So I'm a sucker for all of it. Cannot wait. I know my wife feels like it's been Masters week for the last 2-3 weeks, and then just realized today, oh wait, this is actually Masters week. The golf tournament's going to be on. We're not going anywhere this weekend. Yeah, that's correct. That's what's happening. So I cannot wait to get into it here. So that was the housekeeping at the top. Let's look at the field before we jump into some of the things that matter around the course specifics. I'm going to bring up the odds board, courtesy of our friends over at DraftKings. Shop around on a Monday morning. Obviously, it's a very unique situation because, major championships, Masters in particular, those futures have been out for a while. It's basically been one-way action. If you showed a pulse at any point in the spring, whether it's Cam Young, Matt Fitzpatrick, Akshay, Patrick Reed, Brooks. These numbers have all gotten shorter. So I do expect there to be a little bit of some reshuffling. And again, definitely shop around their, price dependence, each way markets, enhanced win only type stuff. Very interesting field, especially at the top, Ron. Scotty Scheffler, 450. I think we were looking at 3-1 for a little while there. Obviously, questions about what looked like a first round only blimp is kind of spilled out a little bit. Now, again, the lead in form for anyone else in the world this would be, pristine. But Scotty Scheffler. So when he goes, T22 at Bay Hill and T24 at the Players, and we haven't seen him since. More questions considering he just brought in the second son to the world too. He's definitely been doing some other things here of late. John Rahm, significantly shorter than you would have found a couple of weeks ago, even over the weekend, down to 9-1. I've seen this even shorter than that. Rory's your defending champ. People are redlining Rory no matter what, which is not going to bet the defending champ regardless. He is locked in here on DraftKings, same price as Bryson DeChambeau. Ludwig 17, Xander at 18. I've got a little teardrop with Cam Young, Tommy, and Matt Fitzpatrick short of 30. And then you have another tier kind of in that 30 range. Colin, Rosie, Bobby Mack, Brooks, Hideki, all short of 40. 91 golfers in the field. I don't know, Ron, we can make the case for maybe 12 to win without giving out any picks or anything specifically. You do what you like. But any thoughts here at the top of the odds board?
It does seem more wide open, I think, just because we're so used to the last few years, Scotty, and then, obviously Rory last year, kind of, even with all his struggles here at Augusta, like it was just everything was lining up. Like when I did the trends piece last year, he fit all 19 trends. And so you go this year, you got both those guys who, usually play a warm up at one of the 2 weeks before, and neither did that this year. Obviously, you had Rory with the back issues, Scotty with, that's the thing, where you get into Scotty with, he went an entire calendar year. He never finished worse than T8. And then you look at his last 3 starts and he's T22, T24, T12, and you look at the approach numbers. And so, yeah, it does seem like you kind of have this tier. And I think you look at a guy like John Rahm who, obviously when you look at, obviously the strokes gained data isn't good from Liv, but he's pretty much up there as far as what he's done recently with winning and all these runner-ups he's had over there. You got Bryson, who's kind of getting better with his Augusta form. Still don't think he's a great course fit. And then kind of below them, I think you have this group of guys, Cam Young, Fleetwood, Fitzpatrick, who are playing really well. Then you got Morikawa, who's kind of an X factor with what's going on with him. But, if his back is fine, we saw what kind of form he's had this year. So I think it sets up for a really exciting, interesting week. I don't think a long shot's going to win, but I would not be surprised if someone from this kind of second tier comes through on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's a long shot year, but I think the consensus is probably correct. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have Scotty or Rory win. But just definitely a little bit more questions than maybe we've come into in years past. So again, if you want to dig into specifics, my player guide is up on the site. Went live over the weekend. Again, literally can click into, put a little thing in here if you want to just jump to the names. Detailed notes on literally everyone in the field. If you want to get our thoughts, you want to get expanded notes on Rahm, like Ron's saying, get a sense of what he's been doing there on Live, broke it all down. This is literally for everyone. Again, I keep making the joke that like there's 3 paragraphs on Brian Campbell here, if that's your thing, right? So we're covering everyone here. You can check that out if you have not already dug into the player guide. Just kind of a reference point for no matter what you're doing. If you want to get some confirmation bias, or if you want to see if I could poke holes in the guy that you're wanting to bet, it's all there for you too. All right, unique course, Ron. But again, if you're a grinder like us, I know stretches of this course, if not all of it, like the back of our hand, but a long, stretching, hilly, par 72 that plays longer than the 75 and change listed on the scorecard. Again, driver heavy, big, wide open fairways, easy to gain off the tee. But, finding the fairway doesn't mean that you're in a great lie. Very much could be ball above or below your feet. You can play from the pine straw, even if you spray it a little bit, because the rough is not super penal, but it is very difficult to gain on approach. It's very difficult to hit greens in regulation here, and also to be in the right quarter of the green, because these undulating greens are really what impact the scoring here. Obviously, you got to have some strokes gained around the green magic with these shaved runoffs, and obviously the putting here can be tricky as well. We've seen some not great putters win here historically if you're ball striking it well. Anything specific on the course or any changes maybe that we've missed here that have happened since the last time we were here?
There haven't really been any changes this year. It's one of the few years I can remember in recent memory where I forget one of the holes is 10 yards longer. So we're up to 7,565 this year. Well, like you said, this is the 9th longest annual course on tour. So, and kind of starting off the tee here, distance matters. I've already heard a few things going around. It's yes, you can hit it as far and wherever you want to hit it. There's obviously with the rough, it's only 1.4 inches. So, Bobby Jones, when he designed this course, he wanted to give players an unrestricted feeling of being able to swing away. And so you definitely can do that here. There is numerous holes where you do have to position yourself off the tee because this course is about angles into these greens. And, if you have a bad angle, that's where, the firmness and the quadrants on these greens will just kill you. So positional driving is important. Obviously, like you said, this is one of the most difficult approach courses in the world. Around the green is hugely important this week. Obviously, we don't have the exact numbers in the rabbit hole like for other weeks because, not having much shot link data this week, but majority of shots around the green are from tight, short grass areas. Even like you said, this extends the uneven lies. I mean, there's so many times you're chipping uphill or downhill into these slopes on the greens, and that's kind of what makes it so tricky. And so one of the big trends this week is kind of coming into the week with recent around the green play. That's I think the number is 0.25 inches, or I'm sorry, 0.25 strokes per round you're gaining in your last 16 rounds. So all these things combined with the greens, I mean, we're talking snip meter speeds up to 15. So this is a week for the rabbit hole to be looking at kind of fast green speeds. But just overall, like, you need every club in the bag, but it is a week where you do not need to be an elite putter. We've seen guys here who obviously you want guys who can spike with the putter, but this is a week for me where I'm really looking at tee to green, attacking the par fives. Par five scoring has proven to be crucial here. So there's a lot of specific things you want to focus in on, and then you can get into the the whole course history stuff, past success in majors, especially recent success. And again, recent form is something you also want to be looking at here. I think the tournament cheat sheet that we have is a great way to kind of look and focus on who's playing good right now, along with all the other tools that we have that can be looked at in the rabbit hole.
Yeah, great week for it for sure. You want to check out, let me show you that here for you too. You want to go into the tournament cheat sheet. It's just going to give you a sense of rolling form. Again, you can mess around with the time frames there as well. Whatever you would need to do that. Again, you can do all this extensively in the rabbit hole as well, but just kind of a quick strokes gain specific metric. You can look at recent form. Again, just who's been playing well and who's been playing a lot as of late. You can see this is updated with all the Valero data with Spawn getting his win yesterday, which is nice. We didn't add anyone to the field. And then course history here specifically too. And again, we have a few tracks on the West Coast that have some pretty sticky course history. There's probably, no place that we come to that has it more here. And part of it is just the uniqueness. I think I heard yesterday it was like Max Gracerman or something. Like this is his second year. So he's talking about like, it's just so overwhelming to be here for the first time, to like, you feel like you're in a movie. He was saying like, you hear the birds and it's so quiet. Like he's like, it just is so hard to take in and come and be, not a prisoner of the moment, because it just is something for even these guys for the first time is such a unique experience. So Again, we've seen some debutantes come and play well. We have not had a winner here since 1979 with Fuzzy Zeller. But again, we've had, even in recent years, with Ludwig, we've had Will Zalatoris, Jordan Spieth. We've had a handful of first timers come and get in the mix on Sunday, but no one's got over the line. So course history has been something you can see here on the board. Some guys will mix in some cuts here. I mean, Rory's had a couple of tough ones. This feels like Rosie in a nutshell to begin with. You can see Scotty's played really well here. Ludwig's, again, been here twice, 2 top 7s. Xander's got a string of top 10s here. 4 of the last 6 years. Jason Day's come and played pretty well. Corey Connors has kind of insane course history. Again, ball striking, team no putt stuff, because like you were talking about. So that's all in here for you if you want to get in. Again, you can look at all this specifically in the rabbit hole as well. You had a trend. I think you tweeted it out. You definitely shared it in our Discord, which I think is interesting. And again, I always joke with you, I'm not a big trends guy. This is, I think, the one week that you can find a few that are at least probably directionally correct. And the one around recent lead in strokes gained tee to green form, I believe last 4 starts, last 16 rounds. I think we had winners 15 straight years there, Ron.
Yeah, so it's 14 of the last 14 years. The winner of the Masters has gained at least 18 total strokes tee to green in the 4 tournaments before their Masters win. So looking at this year, we do have Jon Rahm at the top of the board for that. He's gained 35 strokes. And again, last year, Rory was obviously first in that as well. But then, we have Jon Rahm. We have Aberg, Morikawa, McIlroy, Matt Fitzpatrick, Cam Young, Xander Schauffele, Bryson DeChambeau, Tommy Fleetwood, and Minwoo Lee are the 10 guys this year who are coming in. And that just kind of speaks again to, tee to green obviously is not putting, but it includes, off the tee approach around the green. And so, being in form with that part of your game obviously matters a ton here because Augusta National is going to test you in all those areas. And so, that's a group of 10 there. Obviously, trends are meant to be broken, but we're going 14 straight years with that one.
Yeah. Did you see, we got it up on the screen here too. So I actually, just to kick in the live guys, and again, that doesn't count the live data. This is actually capturing the last 16 events where we have their actual PGA Tour data. So, major championships and stuff too. So you do see Rahm in here. As you mentioned, Bryson is in here as well. And I think even Hatton is up here. Hatton's up here too. But again, this is not his last. This is, it's not technically what we're talking about for, because again, the live data, which is a little tricky. But Akshay 2 is the last of the threshold at 19.6.
Well, Akshay, technically,
Akshay, India.
Go ahead.
That's not fair though. You want to count the India? He's discounted.
I mean, it's last 4 tournaments played, so that was his last one. So it does drop him. It does drop him below that number. But again, he's a lefty. Lefties have success here. So I'm definitely playing Akshay a lot in DFS for sure. Yeah. I think he still might need another year or 2 of experience, but I definitely like where his game is at.
Could not agree more. I also think that people are holding some really nice Akshay futures. A little less appealing from my vantage point to jump in at like 50 or so where he is now. But if you happen to have some of the stuff that, again, he missed 2 cuts to start the year. And then since the missed cuts, he's just been awesome, including obviously a win at Bay Hill. So just on the other side of the threshold, which is a very interesting, just line in the sand. Adam Scott's been playing really well. Just misses. Jordan Spieth's been playing significantly better, especially tee to green. The approach game has been nice. Just misses. Corey Connors with the course history we referenced here, just misses. And Scotty Scheffler is on the wrong side of this, which again, it is what it is. He, over the last 12 rounds played, he's lost strokes on approach in 5 of them. On the season, he's like 0.08 strokes gained on approach, which is just wild because we have this run of like 4 years of him being like plus 1.25, and he's basically field average in 2026. So interesting to see there. Again, I have to just table all the Scotty stuff. Like he could just very well come out here and just do his thing, right? This is what we had last year heading into the PGA Championship. He was struggling, and then we kind of went on another run, won a couple more majors, a bunch of golf tournaments down the stretch, and Would not be surprised if we saw that again. Not betting on it. He's hard to bet at his price when he's in form, and he's not currently in form. So yeah, I think this is an interesting trend line. Again, depending on what you want to do with that, you can extend. I would say 3 live guys, because I think Hatton's pretty interesting too. But again, Hatton's not been quite as crisp this year on live compared to the previous years. I think that's an interesting trend. So let's see. You mentioned so from an off the tee standpoint, let me reset this so I'm not just getting 16 rounds. Obviously driver heavy. And again, you can go into the Augusta sheet. We have, you're going to get the previous strokes gain data. In terms of some of the course metrics, they keep some of this in-house still. So we have more than we used to. We don't have everything that we have every week for every other course because they just don't share it. So we have what we have, but again, we do have strokes gain data for a number of years now. And again, just a handful of years ago, we didn't even have that. So it's a good place to be. From an off the tee standpoint, Ron, again, it's easy. It's driver heavy. You mentioned distance. I'm with you. I think it's always additive. Part of it here is that it shows up, and not just necessarily off the tee, but it's the ability to hit high apex irons to hold these greens. And I think that off the tee advantage, we're going to have like a Fitz who is maybe a low off the tee ball flight that can, get his irons very high. But I think it really does translate from a distance standpoint, from an approach standpoint too. So what are you looking for metric wise off the tee?
So yeah, you said it right there. Driving distance, 16 of the last 17 winners ranked inside the top 50 in driving distance in the year leading up to their Masters win. And when you look at the past winners, like you can just see it on the board. And so that is the key though. It's not just hitting it long off the tee. It's what it leads to on your approach shot. Jason Day had a comment recently where, he's really specifically worked on getting his ball flight higher because that's one of the things that it's not necessarily one of the most important things, but having high apex, especially with your second shots, your approach shots into these greens, because that's one of the only ways you can hold these greens, especially if they're playing firm, which, they always are. So it's not just length because of length, just because, this is a long course, but because you're trying to give yourself the shortest possible iron shot. Now you already have a majority of I think it's 72% of approaches are 150 plus yards. So yeah, you want 7 irons, 8 irons, 9 irons. You do not want long irons if possible into these greens. And so obviously the longer you are, you're going to have those shorter clubs. And so distance for me, with it playing, firmer, even on the fairways this week, usually I do look at carry distance. So I don't mind that. But for me this week, as of now, just looking at kind of straight driving distance, I think good drive percentage. If you are out of position off the tee a little bit, you have a bad angle, can you still hold these greens? And so one thing I like to do on weeks like this is combine good drive percentage with difficult approach. And just kind of, see where that leads, trying to obviously recreate the situations players are going to face this week with these difficult green complexes.
Highly recommend that. If you're seeing the rabbit hole for the first time, we appreciate that you're here. Subscribe, thumbs up, take advantage of the no big deal, get in here, play around as well. The filter by condition section is really a great place to do exactly what Ron's talking about. And again, you can go in here and just look at some of the rolling form data, but being able to recreate the conditions that we're looking at this week is your best bet. And be careful putting too many filters on at once. But you do want to be able to, instead of just looking at, I guess, recent tee to green, we made the case for, any recent form is great. But if you're looking at a larger sample size, I would want to maybe drill that down a little bit to get a sense of, who can do it when it's difficult to, gain a green, or if it's difficult to gain on approach. Those things are very, very important to get into the short grass stuff. That's here versus, scrambling from the rough. You could see if you wanted to get into putting splits on surfaces. These things are all in here for you. Highly, highly recommend doing it. Again, check out so the models that we have on site. Again, you can go into our expert model section. You can get models. Again, my models here, John Hasselbauer, Matt Vicenzi. Here's a model from Pat Mayo. Pat and I kind of built that on his player preview show that came out over the weekend. Ron's got, this is kind of our core stats model, but you'll have a very detailed model from Ron And again, Andy Molitor as well. So again, if this is new to you, you can go in and kind of click the other expert models that are in here and get a sense of what people are doing, what filters are they putting on. I will get a consensus out to you here as well soon, so you can kind of get a sense of who likes what. But yeah, definitely a great week to kick around. There's so many ways. So I'm with you. Like, I think you kind of have to put distance or carry distance of some form, because again, there's a lot of discussion about like the mowing patterns and how they mow them to like mitigate run out, and carry distance can matter a little bit more. Whatever, I would capture it in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just for a small percentage of your model, because it is, I think, additive to any way to go about it. So approach is the key. Approach is almost always the key. Approach is the one spot that I think Rahm would agree with. If we're going to be double counting, if we're going to be looking at approach, we're going to be looking at greens and reg, we're going to be looking at good drive percentage. We want to bucket some proximity stuff. We want to look at par 5 scoring. That's got an element of approach. Approach is the one that you're going to either intentionally or accidentally double count, and it's fine. It's the one place to do it. It's what matters most. It's the most consistent, bankable skill set. And you touched on a few different ways to go about it here, Ron. What are some of the ways that you like to look at approach?
So I'll definitely look at, overall approach proximity, look at those buckets, 150 to 200, 200 plus. This is where I think the approach game, this is especially where course experience comes in. It's just invaluable because, players talk all the time, and you can see this when you're watching the tournament. You have guys that will miss on purpose in certain places where it doesn't look like it's a good miss, but because they know, the tricky spots around the greens where they don't want to end up in, you have, a lot of these greens are elevated, guarded by bunkers. You have water on the front side of some of these holes as well. And so players are going to need to take, conservative lines that fly the ball safely beyond trouble. And so I think that's another just thing to think about when looking at approach numbers and who's hot coming in. Do they actually have experience here? Do they know, all the areas where you should miss, especially the tricky areas around the green? So, but yeah, other than that, I'm definitely focusing, related to off the tee. We just talked about, trying to recreate those difficult conditions. I think even looking at history here at Augusta itself, what guys have done on approach, and kind of even combining that with around the green play, because you combine those two together and what they've done here in the past. I think that's another interesting look as well. But yeah, I think, we'll get to par 5s here, but I think we have going for the green, which is also part of our approach metrics on here. And, I think that's also key this week because, you need to have aggressive players, especially on these par 5s.
You can suss out minimum round features if you like, but this is strokes gained approach Augusta National last 5 years. Two gentlemen that were in the field last year, surprisingly, and then are surprisingly both back, are Davis Riley and Brian Campbell. And they sit atop this metric with a 4-round sample. So good for those guys. Next would be, you see here, Scotty Scheffler, tied with Colin Morikawa. This speaks to the consistency that we've had from Corey Connors here. He's just a little bit behind them, kind of a teardrop down to Xander, Hideki. Matt McCarty is another 1-year wonder that popped here on approach. Homa 2. Max Homa would not be here if not for his T12 last year at this event. Otherwise, he is not qualified. Made it just in on the number. And pretty good recent form here. Siwoo Kim, who shockingly has never lost strokes putting here since we've been tracking strokes gained putting. So again, we don't have the data previously because this is, I think, the 8th or 9th Siwoo start, but Siwoo 6 straight years gained strokes putting at the Masters. Patrick Cantley, Charles Schwartzel, Sergio, surprising 0.5. So again, if you want to look just at strokes gained approach here at Augusta National, you can go ahead and do that. If you also wanted to look at maybe a larger sample, like Ron said, you can click out of this. We would reset course. You can look at whether it's long courses, strong fields, difficult scoring conditions, or you can go back down specifically where it's difficult to gain on approach or difficult to gain a greens and regulation. Those are really important ways to go about it too. And I think, again, important if you're building a model to capture all of those things for sure. Yeah, you keep touching on the par 5 scoring. Let's take a look at that. I also think you can look at, the way we have it now, strokes gained bucketed off from a proximity range standpoint. Like we have I think 10 par fours that are in like the 450 to 500 bucket, depending on what they do with the tees. So like strokes gains, par fours, 450 to 500, scoring average in that range, I think is also pretty interesting. But let's look here. We'll back out here. Let's just go and look at, say, last 50 rounds. We'll look at our par five. So strokes gained par five in this bucket last 50 rounds. Jake Knapp by margin. Now again, Jake Knapp, pretty big jump up in class this year in terms of field strength that he's playing in. It's playing really well. Second time here. But again, been absolutely eating on par fives this season, and that makes sense. Tommy Fleetwood, Scotty Scheffler, also just behind at 0.19 strokes gained par five. Minwoo Lee, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele right there as well. And you get into Nikolai Højgaard, Ludwig just a little bit behind them too. So you can see all that here if you want to get into par five scoring average as well. Again, more of the same. Knapp, Scotty, Minwoo, Fitz, Ludwig, Scott, Fleetwood, Rory, Xander, Nikolai again. What's your best way to go about it? Do you like strokes gained? Do you like the scoring average? Or are you trying to do anything proximity-wise from a par five scoring standpoint?
So we have the data in the rabbit hole for the Masters, basically all the strokes gained data we have going back to 2019. But the strokes gained, the par five, we have that going back to 2015. So there's a lot of ways you can do it, like you said. I'll probably look more at the strokes gained par five metric, but just speaking of the par fives in general, you need to be aggressive on these par fives and basically survive the other 14 holes. And so when you look at the group of par fives here, they're among the shortest groups on tour. They only average 564 yards. So each of these is reachable in two shots. Each of these par five holes has a birdie or better rate of over 38%. Eagle chances as well. Now, there are some risk factors on a few of them, but, I think when you look at one of the trends that I have this year, that par five scoring, 14 of the last 16 winners ranked inside the top 40 on the PGA Tour in par five scoring in the year leading up to their win. So 72%, this is going back to 2010, 72% of total scoring has come on these par five holes. If you go back to 2017, Masters champions are 67 under par on the par fives. So again, just speaking to the importance of you need to score on these holes, you need to be aggressive. And this is kind of where I said the going for the green. That's another trend this week. Players who have won here have always ranked high in that metric as well, which kind of speaks to are ultra aggressive here. And so you almost have to score a low number on these holes. And so this is something that I'm going to be weighting much heavier than a normal week.
So I have it on the screen right now. I went and filtered to long and very long golf courses. Last 50 rounds. So not everyone is going to meet that mark because some small sample stuff. Again, I just went in the last, a pretty big sample, but some of these guys aren't getting enough rounds on long and very long golf courses because it's their first year on the PGA Tour. Marco Penge, Rasmus Nørgaard Peterson are up here. But you can see here in this sample, aggressiveness, going for the green, long, very long golf courses. Xander Schauffele, Rory McIlroy, Bryson DeChambeau, Nikolai Højgaard, Chris Gotterup, Rasmus Højgaard, Cam Young, Jake Knapp, and you kind of filter down here. These guys are, a little less than 70%. So to Ron's point, there are some guys and there are some years, right? You think of a Zach Johnson. We had, you've had some, pretty good years here decently, maybe not the last couple, but like Shane Lowry's played pretty well here. I think we have a top four here from Russell Henley in the past. There are some years where guys that aren't aggressive can play and hang by turning the par fives into, wedge shots, but you just got to be perfect, right? You got to leave yourself in the right spot. And then you have to hit that third, that wedge just absolutely perfect because your peers, the Xanders, Rorys, Brysons, might have an eagle putt, or they might have, a chip where, that fourth shot is even a little bit closer. So again, it can be done, but it looks like we're going to have really nice weather, Ron. So it doesn't look like we're going to get like sloppy conditions. It's going to play firm and fast. I do think going for the green is going to matter quite a bit, and you got to be able to take advantage of those spots. So again, we're looking at a bunch of different ways to go about it, but I think this kind of captures that too, considering we're not going to have all the specific Masters data on that. But again, very long golf courses who are still willing to go for it. Here's a great way to look at that. So, let's go into this is kind of our par 4 bucket that I was talking about. We have a lot of these longer ones, 400 to 450. Again, these are some of your best players on tour as well. Again, some guys that are playing well this year. Scotty's been great in these longer par 4s. And again, these are the shots. These are more like hold on holes, right? These are not necessarily your birdie holes. These are just where can you separate from the field from a strokes gain standpoint. We're not looking at birdie or better on par 4s. That's just not what Augusta presents. There's just a lot of holes where guys know, hey, par is a great score here. I'm not going for the pin. This is just not what I'm looking for. I need to get par and get out of here. This matters. Scotty Bryson got her up again, making his debut. He's one of the more fascinating ones this week because he's top 10 in the world. He's 9th in the official world golf rankings, and he's making his debut here. We've had kind of one of those in the last handful of years where we get a random top 10 who, for some reason, has never played here before. Just kind of ascended since the last time we were here. Sam Burns has been good at these, but terrible here and in majors. Patrick Reed, Rory McIlroy, those guys kind of separating from their peers here. So again, something to look at, but I would not be looking at anything birdie related on par 4s at all.
Yeah, speaking to that, like another thing I love to do this week is obviously we have the filter where you can set it to difficult par 4s, but even just looking at difficult scoring conditions and then going into looking at bogey avoidance, like you said, not really looking at birdie stuff, but I think bogey avoidance in the past. And even if you want, you don't know which courses you're looking at here and you just want to go at all major courses, there's so many routes you can go with difficulty. But just the ability to look at, especially these par 4, par 3 holes, who is avoiding bogeys in past difficult conditions. That's something I'm definitely factoring in this week.
Here you are. Actually looking at average here. Again, you can mess around with, again, we can show this on the screen. You could be screaming at us and wanting to come in and I would do this from a time frame standpoint, or I would mess around with these rounds. Do it. Subscribe, play around with it yourself. We're trying to just capture little bits here. But if I'm just looking at, I went 2 years, last 36 rounds, for example, and we're looking at difficult and very difficult scoring conditions, and I want to look at bogey avoidance rate. And again, Scotty by margin here at 12.7%. Haotong, 6 rounds in that sample. He is next. Then Xander,
really quick,
then Rahm. Yep.
We jump in here really quick. So the coloring. So if you notice, there's only 3 players there who are on green coloring. So these are set to the actual PGA Tour average. Obviously, Augusta, the most difficult course they're going to play this year. So that's why you see so much pink, so much red, because according to the averages, that's how difficult courses usually play. And even if you scroll to the right a little bit, I almost forgot about this. We just recently added double bogey avoidance, which is a big deal here. There's so much talk last year with, Rory. I can't remember how many doubles he had, but I don't think any winner won with as
4.
many as he had. Yeah, 4 of them. So, yeah, this is something that's really, really neat to look at this week, to be able to look at, who, when you get on difficult courses, who tends to keep it all together. They don't have any blow up holes. And so I think, narrowing down some rounds here, you can get a really good idea. I think Bobby Max, I think I already saw him really high here, which, again, you have the lefty narrative. He's been playing really good. So I think he's a very interesting name this week.
Just been such a great, but he's putting insanely well. And you'd like to see the approach numbers that we saw at the Valero, which is nice for him too. So he had double bogeys. He's kind of up there comfortably by margin with the next closest. But you can see here, you basically only have Scotty, Xander, and Rahm, doing it in these conditions at a average or above average rate from a bogey avoidance standpoint. Henley, Bobby Mack, Rory, Ludwig, Tommy, again, top of the board, or barely just behind that. And if you're looking, just take a look here and see who's on the other side of it here. It's not a great sample for Johnny Kiefer, 10 rounds. Rasmus has struggled there. There's Brian Campbell, Dustin Johnson, checks clear on the 1st and the 15th. I hear Pop Geeter struggling. Home has been struggling. Cam Smith, again, he and DJ can, rent a boat and go fishing Friday afternoon, guys. you can find some nice stuff there in Georgia. Minwoo struggled with that last 36. Brooks, Kitayama. So again, definitely some correlation with not always. I mean, some good putters in here too. Cam Smith, Minwoo, great putters. Kitayama obviously can struggle with the putter. Brooks has been bad with the putter. Clark's been really bad with the putter. This is a great way to look at it too. And again, you can mess around. You want to go larger sample, which I think would be great too. Because again, this is, Bogey Avoidance is a little bit more of a, I think, baseline skill set in terms of how you approach courses and, just your game plan, tee to green. So I think it's a great way to look at it too. There's also some lag putting, 3-putt avoidance, in the putting section too. I think those are other ways to kind of tell the same story, but maybe in a little bit of a different way. So if you want to look at 3-putt avoidance on difficult and very difficult scoring conditions, again, you can manipulate greens, all those different things. Harry Hall, Sam Burns, small sample for Wright, and good to see him play pretty well last week. Tom McKibben, JT, Ryan Fox, 3-putt avoidance. Again, lag putting. This has been good for Rahm, Sergio, Harry Hall. There's Willett, Bobby Mack again, Sam Burns, Straka. That's surprising. Nico, Fox, Xander, Bridgman, JT. So again, some different ways to do the same thing, but just kind of depends on how you want to go about it this week. It's a great rabbit hole week. So many ways to go about it.
Yeah, and I'm even, I guess when we get into around the green here, definitely getting into difficult, chipping on short grass areas. There's so many facets to around the green play here. Rough is not a factor at all. So again, the majority of your recovery shots are coming from these tight, uneven lies. And that's where, there are a few courses, I think Memorial Park where they were at had some of this into it, but Augusta National is so unique around the green, but you can get into, putting that filter on with difficult short grass areas. And, like you said earlier, another part of the chipping issue is with how they cut the grass. It's cut from, even towards the end of the holes here, it's cut back towards the tee. So your chips and pitch shots are played into the grain. So distance, spin control is much more challenging, even on these delicate shots. Again, some of these holes you're worried about green speeds up to 14, 15 on the stem meter. So just, Patrick Reed, Jordan Spieth, Hideki, these are 3 guys who just come to mind right now who, just have that exceptional touch, creativity. They know every inch of these holes. They played here so many times. So again, this is where the course experience, in my opinion, comes really, really strongly into play here.
Could not agree more. It's, knowing, looking, front to back, which again, they always do. Like, where's the pin? That matters a ton on where you need to leave yourself, where you want that chip to be or where you want that approach shot to be. That's, again, could not agree more. That's where the experience lies here. If we're just looking at, what do I have here? Last 3 years, last 50 rounds, we're scrambling on short grass, and it's difficult to do so. Looking at scrambling on short grass here, Fitz, Matt McCarty, Marco Penge, small sample, Kitayama, Hideki, Nikolai Horgaard. Here's Zach Johnson, Harris English, writing again, small sample. Novak's been good at it. Scotty, Cantley, Aaron Rye. I'll see how he's doing with his neck. Jason Day, those guys kind of separating there. Around the green, proximity short grass. Again, Rahm's been amazing at it. There's more Zach Johnson, Patrick Reed. Again, that speaks to Reed's course history here. I mean, Danny Willett has had some years where has no form anywhere else, is barely playing, and comes and finds himself in the top 20 again. Gerard, Rory, Michael Brennan, interesting small sample. Ludwig, Lowry, Decky, Cantley, Henley, Siwoo. Again, huge part of the week around the green play.
Yeah, and around the green proximity is becoming my new favorite stat. We got that. We got distance from edge of the fairway, just things you won't find anywhere else. But just it separates putting. You're just looking at, who can chip close to the hole. And so, I think that's a key thing I'm modeling as well.
Yeah, I mean, you could even go, all right, greens are fast, which is an element of it, right? They're not chipping from the green, but they're chipping onto a green that's fast. And if you wanted to say that it is difficult and very difficult to gain around the green, let's see what we get sample-wise here and looking around the green proximity. Pretty decent sample for guys. So these guys are chipping onto fast greens, and it's typically difficult So again, we're not capturing anything in terms of short grass, but again, a difficult test. Siwoo, Hall, Mav, Brooks, Kitayama, Scotty, Decky, Spieth, Nick Taylor, Colin Morikawa, Tommy. So yeah, you're going to get some guys that have played pretty well here. So again, it's just a similar way, but a different way to go about it. You can look around the green proximity just in the sample of short grass here as well. This is available for you. Again, good stuff for Rahm here. Patrick Reed, Spawn coming off of a win. Obviously, Matt McNeely's short game's been great. Spieth, Kitayama again. So yeah, there's lots of different ways. This is where we touched on and trying to really be thoughtful in terms of recreating the conditions instead of just looking at baseline rolling around the green play or strokes gained around the green.
And here's another one. You could go difficult greens because obviously those are the most difficult greens they're going to play all year. Combine that with short grass chipping. And so, difficult short grass chipping. And so you're trying to recreate those exact conditions as well.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, you can get so creative in here. You can spend so many hours. But just a lot of great tools. Even getting into, last week, with the grass conditions at Valero, they're wet for all 4 rounds. We have those weather metrics on the bottom as well. So interesting to see, like you said, looks like maybe a little wind on Thursday, but looking like a pretty perfect week as of right now.
I feel like every year for like the last 5, we've had some sort of impactful weather events, whether it was the entirety of the rounds, rain, delays, wave advantages. It doesn't mean that we won't have a wave advantage, but it looks like we're going to have pretty solid conditions for the majority of the 4 rounds, which is awesome to see. So yeah, you can, as you said, we had, we played ball in hand yesterday at Valero for most of the week. Actually, if you wanted to, filter that stuff out, you could technically. It's going to be a great week. What else? Anything else we want to look at before we wrap?
Yeah, I think we've covered it. Like you said, I think fast green speeds, 3-putt avoidance, all those are going to be key. You don't need to be a great putter to win this week as far as your, past form. We've seen, like you said, Siwoo doesn't putt good. He comes in here, he gains every round. So it's difficult for everybody. And I think that kind of separates, not separates, but kind of brings the pack together. I'm focusing more on tee to green, but if you want to get into the putting, bent grass, there's a lot of angles you could take with that as well.
Yeah, when I was doing research for the player guide, just had a lot of different views up. I love looking at percentage of rounds gained as well. So if you just want to see, like here, we're looking at Augusta National last 5 years, percentage of rounds gained. You want to look at their total strokes gained, their putting. A couple guys surprised me a little bit compared to where they've been. Not surprised. I mean, Ludwig's putted really well here, likes fast greens. Rosie, obviously. Bobby Mack is, I don't know, it's a top 5 putter on tour right now. He's been unbelievable. Patrick Reed here as well. Some smaller sample guys, but he was surprised to see some really good Matthew Fitzpatrick putting because it's been kind of a struggle this year. He's putted well here historically, even though he doesn't have great course history, but he's gained strokes putting here 65% of his rounds. And Siwoo was the other. Their putting numbers are significantly better than their baseline, at least their baseline numbers for 2026. So yeah, you can see here, this is just Augusta only last 5 years. And again, some guys aren't going to have that, like a Grayserman just 1 year. But there's Patrick Reed, Brian Harmon, as we know. Harris English has had great course history here. But here's Fitz. That's been a struggle this year. If he had gained strokes putting more consistently, he'd have more than just 1 win. And here's Siwoo here as well. Both of these guys gaining, almost 0.4 strokes per round putting over the last 5 years here, which is pretty crazy considering their baseline. Who's struggled putting? I know we're going to see Brooks is in this mix. Kitayama's here, DJ's here, Mav McNeely. It's not great for Mav considering how well his putting has been. It's only been 1 year though. Same thing. Jake Knapp's only been here once. Putter's been awesome this year. Wyndham Clark, putter's been awful. So that's been bad. Patrick Cantley can't putt here. Hatton struggled to putt here, though. That's trending better. Again, Hideki, Brooks, for the most part, is lost. He's had, a couple of like random spike weeks or rounds, but for the most part, he struggled putting here too. So that's been tough. again, a million ways to go about it this week.
Hey, really quick, let's go to scoring.
Okay.
And let's look at scoring ops. Obviously we have many different ways you can look at it. But yeah, just go to the scoring right now and just look at 2026. So you can go to the year here very easily, select whatever year you want to look at. So just looking at recent form, what this is going to cover the last 3 months. And just looking at inside 5 feet, inside 10 feet, inside 15 feet. If you were previously on Fantasy National, obviously they had opportunities gained. That was a favorite stat everybody loved. So that was inside 15 feet. So what we've done is we've gone even further here. We got inside 5, inside 10 feet. And so you can get really granular here. And then the other menu we have as well, where you can go by yardage range. But I think this gives you a kind of a pretty good overview of who's coming in. You can see inside 5, who's kind of throwing darts, but just so many different ways if you want to get really in the weeds here and look at who's coming in. Maybe they're missing their putts, but they are sharp with their irons, and no surprise there. Siwoo's probably going to be on top.
Yeah, I love the inside 15 because, again, that's, as you said, it's more times than not just a better indicator. And again, I don't even know, the putt made rate at 15 feet is probably like 30-something% or so. Again, but they give themselves chances, right? If you continue to give yourself chances at a 25 to 30% rate, like Rory and Siwoo are, that makes a lot of sense. Cam Young, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Justin Rose, Brian Harmon. Again, not throwing a lot of darts, but he's inside 15. Colin Morikawa, Sam Stevens making his debut here. Akshay, Ryan Gerard, Corey Connors, Jake Knapp. Again, you can go down. I think it's a great way to look at it. Again, if you want to get into specifics, like Ron said, we have 70 and change % from 150 plus. You can get into a little bit more granular details of how guys are doing here in all of the scoring range buckets too, right? So, you're going to have some longer approach shots. Still really good for Rory and Siwoo. 175 to 200. Morikawa and Akshay kind of pop in there. 150 to 175. Pot Geeter. Interesting. And Adam Scott. There's JJ Spawn as well. So those are, kind of, you get into, maybe a wedge or a 9-iron for those guys in kind of those ranges. So again, there's a little bit of everything here too. 100 to 150. Rory, Gerard, Colin, Akshay. It's all been really good. So again, lots of different ways to go about it. That's the approach scoring metrics, or you could just go into the overall stuff that we were in before in the scoring bucket. So yeah, lots of different ways. JR in the chat says Rahm, Reed, Scotty, Bobby Mack, Cam Young. Winner will be one of those 5. I can get behind that. I think there's a couple you're missing. But fair. Again, I do think, to our point at the top, I do think it's probably a pretty tight list. That's not going too far off of that. So, all right, Ron, I'm excited. Good luck tonight. Go blue.
Go blue.
Leave the 6.5, people. Get some more money in your pocket for the Masters. 6. What do we look for? Some alt lines, 10 plus, 20 plus. We've been doing it all year.
Yeah, listen, Yaxel, look, he played like he was a 38-year-old at the 1MCA. He can hit 3 still, but I'm a little worried about that. But look, I just want to see Danny Hurley lose. So, obviously I want Michigan to win, but yeah, I hope the guys come through. And yeah, they've been steamrolling people, but UConn has that championship pedigree, so sure. You can never downplay that. So it should be a classic.
They got some injuries too, so I guess should be all right. So, all right, appreciate everyone hanging out with us as always. Hit subscribe, thumbs up before you take off. Go over to betspertsgolf.com. Check out Ron's detailed preview for Augusta National. Check out my player guide. It's free for you to take a look at. Bookmark it. Go back to it. We have lots of other content already up on the site. It's going to be even more. Look at the models. Take advantage of the no big deal. Fill those splash pools. We appreciate all of you. It's going to be a great week. So hang out with us. Come back tomorrow right here in this channel at 11 a.m. Eastern for our betting preview. Will be myself.